I played some of the worst games on Steam, so you don't have to. Hi, welcome to CatDadGaming, where scraping the bottom of the Steam barrel seems to be my bread and butter. So on a quick side note, if you didn't see, 1,000 subs! Woo! So once again, thank you all so much, it's been incredible. Nice one. Legends. So if you're new to this, I guess, series at this point, I'll talk you through the flawless selection process. Step 1, go into Steam and sort by horror. Check. Then sort by free. Check. Because I mean, who wants to spend their hard-earned money on these delightful selections? And don't worry, it's not mean. Most of these games are asset flips and cash grabs. And the others tend to be abandoned, and well, if they don't fall into these categories, they're probably better off on a more forgiving platform. And oh yeah, the criteria. Sort by user reviews. Check. You do all this, and boom, you are left with the worst that Steam has to offer. How many videos on a topic do you have to make before it becomes a series? So far, I've looked at 7 games in the previous 2 videos. So I've covered a good amount of these games, and they all follow similar patterns. One thing, which you'll see in the next 2 games, is bad Steam trailers. Yeah, the next one's good.
Here to download until the game is released. It has one main quest, one secret.
So the first of today's games, I Must Kill Fresh Meat. It's a bit edgelordy title, but you know, each their own. So I have to start by saying that the art in this game looks pretty good. It looks hand-drawn, and yeah, like heck yeah, I'm interested.
Future me. This is a trap. Future me knows better. Do not play this game. Do not ever.
So yeah, looking at the reviews, it seems that this game is stuck in early access. However, these comments are from 5 years ago, so I think it's safe to assume that this game has been abandoned and will remain in the state forever. Forever! Now, I've got to say, abandonware is a bit of a pet peeve of mine. Like, you are free to start something and give up halfway through. Trust me, I've got ADHD, I know this life. But I read a lot of web novels, and it bugs me to get really into a book only to find, like, you know, after reading for like a couple of days, that the project's been abandoned or they gave up and did something else. So, you know, it just bugs me a little bit. Rubber. So, one thing that did make me laugh with this trailer, on top of the awkward audio, my favorite part was at the end where the character just stops moving and just stands there for like 20 seconds as the video trailer keeps going. Amazing. You just can't get better now. It's just top tier comedy. Accidental comedy, but top tier. So, don't take my opinion. Let's just look at this review by Former Knight. A point and click title that's so deep in early access that you can't click on anything yet. Alright, let's just play this game, man. Let's just go! So, usually I show some snippets of gameplay with some funny, snarky comment about the scene, and I kind of go from there. But this time I managed to complete, I'm doing air quotes if this is just audio, the game in about a minute. So I'm just going to play the whole game, which seems a bit easier on me because it's less effort, I don't need to edit as much. Top tier, high quality YouTube's there. So yeah, this game was described perfectly. It is a point and click adventure without interaction. You can't click on objects, you can't pick up anything, you can't do anything. And this seriously messes with my perception of what is a game. Okay, so like walking simulators, I quite like this genre. It's not a dig. They're good games because they usually have quite good stories and the interaction is what makes it good. Or like shooters, most of the time they don't have a good story or any at all, but they've got good action, you know. But what about point and click adventure games with no clicks, you know? If you add one interactable item, does that make it a game? My brain, help me out everyone. What's your definition of a game? Let me know in the comments, because like, does one interaction make it a game? This may be a bit of a hint about my opinions on this game. But instead of saving the file as I must kill gameplay, or you know, insert name of game plus gameplay, which is my usual format, I saved this file as I must kill footage. So let's start with the game's positives. Damn. So there must have been some kind of update, as I started at the pig farm and I couldn't interact with anything. Whereas all the other videos I've checked out, the player started at a house and couldn't interact with anything. So it seems like this update gives me less game to mess around in. So what to talk about, as there is literally no game. Well, I guess what else is missing is a good place to start. So there's no music. After the intro screen, I have an alt tabbed out and there's an error. There's literally just silence, which is a pretty big no-no in any game, especially visual novels or point and clicks, which, you know, the atmosphere is really important in those kind of games. The interactions, it's not there. You can't click on anything, there's no interaction, you can't pick up anything, you can't do anything. Things just don't pop up. And not to be a dick, but I play Pathfinder on a virtual tabletop. I play on Foundry, it's good, trust me. But when I play, I use like imported maps which have icons that like pop up and they hover and they show you the name or they show an image. And I'm pretty sure I could recreate what this game has done in about an hour with a program that's meant to run D&D maps rather than whatever this is, you know. Oh yeah, what else is missing? You can't save the game. Not that I'd particularly want to, but I thought I could bypass the really slow text intro, save the game, and then I could restart and see if I could interact and do different things. You know, and I thought I was on something, but nah, there is no save. And what else you can't do? You can't progress. This game is fucked. Yeah, the mouse escapes the screen, the intro is awful. So in my opinion, 0 out of 10. Alright, that seems a bit harsh. 1 out of 10. As there is at least an interface to load an image, so it's about a step up from just going onto Instagram or something. I don't know. And just in case that this was a bug, you know, that I thought I'd received where I got stuck at the big file, I went and searched through the community tab and I found someone else had this experience, like Sky. Having seen the new update, I gave it a try. I start the game, there are nice spooky ambient background sounds in the menu. Once I click new game, I'm treated to the first scene. All the sound completely stops, I read the text over the butcher's head, yada 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 yada. I'll leave this on screen so you read it, it's quite long. But literally this person had the exact same issues I had, so it's not just a one-off. So this game, it's really struggling to call this a game to be honest. So this seems more like a proof of concept that didn't go anywhere. So why is it up? Why is it listed as a game when it's just gathering negative reviews? Maybe it's to get attention, but I don't know. If I'd made a proof of concept and I wanted to make this a game, I'd be using this proof of concept to try and get funding or something. I don't know. I don't make games, so maybe I'm just not on something. But yeah, this officially takes my Wooden Spoon Award for the worst game on Steam, because at least all the other bad games have had a game to experience. Sorry if that last bit seemed a bit too negative, but usually I get some kind of goofy fun from these games, and that was just deflating. That was literally 30 minutes of wasted time that I'll never get back in my life. So anyway, moving on. The second game on display is And I Must Scream. So right off this bat, this game looks so much better. The trailer shows a cool looking platforming game that looks a little bit like Little Nightmares. And right off the bat, I can say that there is actually a game here. Huzzah! So let's look at the reviews to see the main issues. So the main theme of these seems to be that the game feels like a student project with a cool concept, but that's about it. The game's not been finished or worked on, so it feels like a proof of concept that runs badly and doesn't do much else. Another thing I noticed, which does seem to be thematically on point, is the trailer. It has a black screen for the first 10 seconds, which is certainly not helpful for selling your game. Anyway, don't take my opinions. Let's look at this review by Rusty. Runs like a lame arthritic tortoise and plays like the worst version of the Scarecrow levels from Arkham Asylum that your mind could possibly conceive. Viewing the sun through a high-powered telescope would be easier on the eyes and mind than this audio-visual nightmare. Fair. I feel like that's a little too negative, so let's read... Oh my, I can't read that name. Let's read another. Let's read another one. That name is a get you banned on YouTube. So anyway, this review by Krabs Burger. The concept is interesting, the atmosphere is good, other than that, awful game. So the game has a lot of negative reviews, I'm not just being mean. So anyway, let's just play the game, let's just find out. Let's go! To start with, the first thing I noticed, this game has no menu. There are no controls mentioned. So you literally have to spam every key to find out what the controls are. Good stuff. So the game had a pretty bad issue with triggers. Which I noticed when I couldn't progress past the first set of boxes I found, until I backtracked to the beginning of the game, where I got an audio dialogue to trigger, and then I could continue.
There, inside the hungry dark.
So the gameplay itself is fine. Progress past the big spider. Avoid the red light of death. So, pretty simple gameplay, and I'm on board, you know, it makes sense. Objectively, I know what I'm doing, and I don't have to bash my head against the wall. Unfortunately, I found you can just run past every obstacle as the spider's pretty slow. So just sprint and you make it to the end of the game. Well, as far as I managed anyway, because I did hit a wall. I managed to hard lock the game. How? Well, I punched one single box apparently into an unmovable position where I couldn't progress further into the game. It just stopped. I couldn't move the box, it was stuck in the way. So if you walk around it, you fall to your death and you can't get through it. I tried dying multiple times, which wouldn't reset this issue, and the only solution I found was to restart the game completely. But there's no quit button or menu, so I had to Alt F4 and restart the whole game, which is a bit frustrating. So yeah, after playing for about 20 minutes, I feel like I can agree that this game has a pretty cool vibes actually, and the atmosphere is pretty good. But it definitely feels like an unfinished school project. So I don't want to shit on this too much because, you know, I feel like projects like these get a lot more leeway from me. But I do have to ask, why upload an unfinished project or one so unpolished to Steam once again? You know, if you left this on other indie sites, I don't think it would be that much of an issue. But if you're leaving this up on Steam, it just seems like the game is a lightning rod for negativity at this point, and I just don't get why you'd leave it. But you know, each their own. So overall, it's a pretty bad game and it needs some work. Now, I'm not a programmer, so I'll just ask this: is it more efficient to abandon this game and start a new project with like new knowledge, or is it better to spend time and fix the issues? I'm guessing it's probably better to abandon something and just start again. That's probably why there's so many abandoned projects. But that's just my guess. I could be completely wrong. Let me know, you know, if you've got experience making games. So let's look at this last game for today. Mine Trap. I like the name. So I don't actually know what this game is about, even after watching the trailer. I think it might be one of those game experiences where you just have to figure it out as you go. So I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like games like this, you know. There's something kind of fun in figuring out how someone else's mind works. I found many indie games that kind of fall into this, where they're usually bad games, but they're pretty good experiences. And I don't know why, like I said, but I just love the human mind puzzle aspect. So once again, let's look at the reviews to see why this game has been panned. One of the issues I think is the game originally cost money and then went free to play. Now, this is not the worst issue, as I do think people should get paid for their work, and you can choose to buy a game or skip one. If you look at the game and go, I don't think it's worth the value, then just skip it, you know. But I do think the $4 it was asking for such a short game does seem a bit delusionally high. But anyway, I do like the devs' comments on this. Let me read them. So, hello dear players. This game is too old and pretty outdated. I decided to make it free and there are two reasons. I'm working on my brand new game, okay? And I believe every game should become free after the sell time is over. You know what, that's fair. I have no problem with that. So, you know what, the $4 might have been a bit pricey, but it went to free to play, so it's all good. Anyway, so the overwhelming majority of complaints are about the platforming and the terrible controls. And that is not a great combo. Just gonna throw it there. Platforming needs solid controls. So don't take my opinion for this game. Let's look at this review by... I can't read your name. This game has terrible controls. There is no way to adjust the mouse sensitivity and is on a ridiculously high speed. After playing, I felt sick, worse than like reading on a bus. It might be also from the changing colors of the environment. It is also a bit interesting and creative, although the graphics are blocky. It was a bit too much of a mindfuck to continue playing. So, yeah, I think that's a fair review. Another review stated that an issue that I knew would annoy me. No saving or pause menu, and well, spoilers or foreshadowing. We'll get back to that. Lie is the gates of hell of trust. Some deep stuff. So the game has these messages written on the wall that kind of come across as someone's like college level philosophy level, you know, like you've just discovered Voltaire or something. And you know, it's very funny to read these. I do find it quite funny. But anyway, I'll read a couple more as we go. So the aim of the game, as far as I can tell, is to figure out what to do. And my guess from playing is to collect all the cacti dotted around the map. Now, so far they've been pretty easy to find, but I assume there are some puzzles that which will unlock more. But I can't say for certain, as there's no bloody save feature. Seriously, it's so fucking annoying. Okay, so for a short horror game, that is fine. But for a game which is meant to be a collectathon, as far as I can tell, it's a death sentence. And yeah, the game also crashes a lot, so good luck collecting stuff. Yeah. Okay. Why do people lie? Sorry, these quotes I just found really funny. Hey, if you want an answer, I fucking love lying. In fact, I love playing hidden role games and pretending that I'm not the bad guy. It's great stuff. You know, Secret Hitler, Blood on the Clock Tower, all great games. Lying's fun sometimes, you know. But okay, on top of the game crashing, I also found out that pressing escape just quits the game. So I went from a game with no escape to a game with a twitchy trigger finger on the escape button. You just can't win, can you? So this is not a horror game for me at all. It is a weird platformer collectathon. And honestly, if I want to play a weird collectathon, I'm going to get out my old PlayStation and play Ape Escape because, you know, it's amazing. Do you remember Ape Escape? Go play Ape Escape if you never played it. But for me, there is no horror or psychological horror in this game. And I think that the tag, like the horror tag, is intentional just to like kind of hook the indie horror crowd. Otherwise, I can't tell why there's a horror tag in this game. Now, you know, some games I could say, yeah, it's a little bit horror or it's vaguely horrorish. But yeah, this game had nothing in that for me. So anyway, I kind of do like the vibes and the concept of this game. I thought it was interesting. I like the idea of it. But the game does not play well at all, which is a shame because I think there's actually something here. You could make this a good game. I think that the main issue, like I said as before, was the bad platforming. It's a big no-no. And I think a better way to make this game would just to make creepy puzzles and the collecting items, but with little to no platforming, as it doesn't work well. And that way you still get to keep the concept of the game alive, but with less bad experiences. So I don't think this is awful. I just don't think it wasn't very good. So I actually put this at the kind of meh, like I'd give this mixed rather than just awful. Although for money, if I paid money for this, this definitely goes back into the awful category. So yeah, so I'm glad I get to play these games as they do make me appreciate the games I love that little bit much more. And I don't think any of these games come close to being the worst. That award still goes to Sector. No, I'm lying, I'm joking. I Must Kill is definitely the new champion of the Fallen, the golden trash bag of trash.
An adventure game, we can't show you much elements in the gameplay video.
But I do have to say, it is hard to judge a sliver of a game as it's almost nothing. Is a sliver of something good better than a bucket of slop? Now that is a conundrum, but luckily one I don't have to answer today because I had a sliver of nothing, of negativity, a sliver of negativity, so I don't have to think too hard about this today. So today's batch of games didn't particularly fall into the asset flip category, which is generally surprising, and I don't know if this is because Steam Control has got better, or the ability to refund games might have just killed the asset flip community, or just like the Steam community as a whole reporting games, but it is genuinely refreshing to see. These games, I think, they all fall a bit flat because they all have a cool concept or theme or vibe going for them. And it just kind of makes it a bit more disappointing when they just don't live up to expectations. So, abandonware seems to be the word of the day. Abandonware, noun. Computer software that is no longer distributed or supported by the developer or copyright holder. So, I guess the theme of today is don't give up halfway through.